White woman tore the dress of black woman, thinking she was just waitress. Her billionaire husband saw the sound of fabric tearing echoes through a crystal chandelier ballroom. Expensive silk rips like paper. 300 people gasp in unison. A white woman's perfectly manicured hand grips emerald green designer fabric, yanking with vicious intent. Champagne cascades down the ruined gown, beadings scattering across marble floors like broken stars. A black woman stands frozen, her face a mixture of shock, humiliation, and barely contained rage. Across the room, a tall man in an impeccable tuxedo turns around. His ice-blue eyes land on the scene. His expression shifts from confusion to recognition to something cold and lethal. She thought she was humiliating a waitress. She had no idea she'd just destroyed the dress of the woman who could destroy her entire world. But to understand how we got here, we need to go back. Some hours earlier, to a penthouse overlooking the Chicago skyline, where our story truly begins. Simone Laurent stands before a floor-to-ceiling mirror in her luxury apartment, her reflection bathed in the golden light of late afternoon. At 34 years old, she's the kind of beautiful that doesn't announce itself loudly but unfolds gradually, commanding attention through presence rather than performance. Her natural hair falls in elegant locks past her shoulders, each one carefully maintained, a crown she wears with quiet pride. Her warm brown eyes hold stories. Kindness lives there, yes, but also sharp intelligence and a strength forged through years of proving herself in rooms wasn't expected to belong. She's wearing a silk robe, her skin still glowing from her shower, but her eyes keep drifting to the gown hanging near her window. It's stunning, a custom emerald green Valentino that catches the light like water, hand-beaded with intricate patterns that probably took hundreds of hours to create. The kind of dress that costs more than most people's cars. The kind of dress she once couldn't have imagined owning. Her phone rings, and she answers on speaker, her best friend Maya's voice filling the apartment with warmth and excitement. Tonight is the annual Rothschild Foundation Charity Gala at the Grand Celestial Hotel. For most people attending, it's just another evening of champagne and networking. Another chance to see and be seen among Chicago's elite. But for Simone, tonight carries weight that sits heavy in her chest. This is her first major public appearance since her marriage. Her first time stepping into the spotlight she's avoided for years. Because here's what most people don't know. What's been one of the best-kept secrets in Chicago's social circles. Simone is married to Alexander Rothschild. Yes, that Rothschild. Billionaire. Old money. The kind of name that opens doors before you even knock. As she talks to Maya, pieces of Simone's story emerge like puzzle pieces falling into place. She grew up on the south side of Chicago, the daughter of a nurse and a postal worker. Good people, hardworking people, the kind who taught her that dignity doesn't come from a bank account and that your worth isn't determined by zip codes or last names. She worked 3 jobs through college, sleeping 4 hours a night, fueled by coffee and determination and a stubborn refusal to let her circumstances define her ceiling. For 12 years, she built her art curation business from nothing. Started in a tiny studio apartment, making cold calls, attending gallery openings where she was often the only black woman in the room, learning to navigate spaces that weren't designed for her. She developed an eye, a reputation, a client list that eventually included museums, private collectors, and corporations looking to invest in emerging artists. That's how she met Alexander. He'd commissioned her to curate his private collection 3 years ago. Their relationship grew slowly, carefully. 2 people who'd both learned to guard themselves, recognizing something real beneath the surface. They kept it private for 2 years, then got married 6 months ago in a small ceremony that only their closest friends attended. Even now, few people know. Alexander wanted to protect her from the scrutiny, the judgment, the inevitable accusations that would come. Gold digger, social climber. All the ugly words people use when they can't imagine that someone like him might simply love someone like her for exactly who she is. But tonight, that changes. Tonight, they go public. Simone looks at herself in the mirror, and despite her success, despite everything she's built, there's nervousness in her eyes. She's about to walk into a world of old money and older prejudices, where family names matter more than accomplishments, and where she knows, deep down, that some people will always see her as an outsider. While Simone prepares herself emotionally for the evening ahead, across the city, in a mahogany-paneled study that smells of expensive leather and older money, Alexander Rothschild sits behind a desk that's been in his family for 4 generations. At 38, Alexander commands attention without trying. He's tall, over 6'3", with a presence that fills whatever room he enters. Dark hair graying at the temples gives him a distinguished air, though he's not yet 40. Those ice-blue eyes can freeze someone with a glance in a boardroom, assess a business deal in seconds, spot weakness or deception from across a conference table. He's ruthless in business, the kind of CEO who's increased his family's already substantial fortune threefold in the decade since he took over Rothschild Global Investments. But there's a photo on his desk that tells a different story. Simone, laughing, caught in an unguarded moment. When he looks at that photo, those cold eyes warm into something tender, something that humanizes the billionaire businessman into just a man in love. He's on a call with his assistant about tonight's gala. The event honors his late mother's legacy. She founded the Rothschild Foundation 60 years ago, dedicated to arts education and social justice initiatives. It's important to him, this foundation, because it represents the best of what his family can be. His mother taught him that wealth comes with responsibility, that privilege is only meaningful if you use it to lift others. His assistant's voice carries concern through the phone. The press will be everywhere tonight. Society pages, business journalists, even some entertainment media drawn by the promise of celebrity attendees. Is he sure, absolutely certain, that he wants to go public with his marriage tonight? Alexander's response is immediate and firm. It's time. He's tired of hiding the best thing in his life, tired of attending events alone while Simone stays home, tired of protecting other people's comfort at the expense of his wife's dignity. What his assistant doesn't know, what very few people understand, is that Alexander has been preparing for this moment. He knows exactly what some people will say, the whispers that will follow Simone. He's ready to burn every bridge, sever every business relationship, walk away from any association that disrespects his wife. His family founded the foundation 60 years ago. He's under pressure to maintain the family image, to uphold traditions, to make choices that align with the expectations of old money society. But here's what Alexander has learned in his years of building and running a global empire. The only opinion that matters is the one he sees in the mirror. And his mother, the woman tonight's gala honors, would have loved Simone. So yes, he's sure. Tonight, the world learns that Alexander Rothschild married for love, not pedigree. And anyone who has a problem with that can get out of his life. But while Simone prepares with nervous excitement and Alexander steels himself for the social fallout, there's a third player in tonight's drama. Someone who has no idea what's about to happen, no clue that the evening she's been planning and positioning herself for is about to become her worst nightmare. Victoria Ashford Chen stands in her mansion's master bedroom, surrounded by luxury that she spent 2 decades accumulating. At 42, she's the product of excellent surgeons, personal trainers, and maintenance that costs more annually than most people earn. Blonde hair that probably isn't natural anymore, but is professionally maintained to look effortlessly perfect. A figure sculpted in boutique fitness studios. Diamonds glittering at her throat, her wrists, her ears, each piece carefully chosen to broadcast wealth and status. She's screaming, not the kind of yelling that comes from genuine emotion, but the practiced fury of someone who's learned that creating scenes gets her what she wants. Her staff scurries around her, terrified, as she berates them about her gown not being absolutely perfect. There's a microscopic stain, invisible to anyone else, and she's threatening to fire her housekeeper over it. The poor woman stands there, head down, apologizing for something that isn't her fault, knowing she can't afford to lose this job. This is who Victoria is. This is who she's always been, really, beneath the charity work and the society smile and the carefully cultivated image of elegance. She married Jonathan Chen 15 years ago, and if we're being honest, which Victoria never is with herself, she didn't marry him for love. She married him for his position as a board member of Rothschild Global Investments. Married him for his connections to the Rothschild family, for the doors his business relationship with Alexander could open. Jonathan is old money, serious money, but more importantly, he's in Alexander's inner circle. Or at least, he was. Victoria has been positioning herself for years to become the next chairwoman of the foundation board. She's networked, donated generously with her husband's money, attended every event, inserted herself into every important conversation. In her mind, she's earned this, she's paid her dues. This is her moment to ascend to the top of Chicago's social hierarchy. But there's something else, something Victoria barely admits even to herself in her quietest moments. She's been in love with Alexander Rothschild for years. Obsessed with him, really. His power, his wealth, his looks, the way every woman in every room watches him when he enters. She's fantasized about what her life could have been if she'd met him first, if he'd chosen her, instead of staying stubbornly, frustratingly single for so long. Then, a few months ago, rumors started circulating. Whispers that Alexander had gotten married in secret. No announcement, no society wedding, nothing that gave Victoria or anyone else a chance to see who'd captured the most eligible bachelor in Chicago. She's been devastated, angry, but also in denial. It's probably just rumors. And even if it's true, surely he married someone appropriate, someone from their world, someone who fits. As she finally approves her gown, a Dior that cost $50,000 but somehow still feels insufficient, her friend calls. They gossip about tonight's event, about who will be there, about the foundation business that Victoria is sure will finally go her way. Victoria looks at herself in her mansion's mirror and sees success. Sees power. Sees someone who has clawed her way to the top of Chicago society and won't let anyone threaten her position. She has no idea that in a few hours she's going to make the worst mistake of her life. That her assumptions, her prejudices, her cruelty are about to cost her everything she spent decades building. Because tonight, Victoria Ashford Chen is going to see a black woman in an emerald gown at the gala. She's going to assume things based on skin color and her own narrow view of who belongs in her world. She's going to believe she's humiliating a waitress, putting someone in their place, maintaining the social order she depends on. She's going to tear that dress. And then she's going to learn exactly who that black woman is. 3 people. 3 very different worlds about to collide at the Grand Celestial Hotel. One night that will change all of their lives forever. The stage is set, the players are preparing. And in just a few hours, a moment of cruelty will reveal truths that some people have spent fortunes trying to hide. The Grand Celestial Hotel doesn't just host events, it makes statements. And tonight, it's making a statement about power, privilege, and who gets to claim their place among Chicago's elite. The venue is a temple to excess and old money. Crystal chandeliers hang from 30-foot ceilings, each one containing over 10,000 individual pieces of hand-cut Austrian crystal that catch the light and scatter it like captured stars. The ballroom floors are Italian marble, imported at a cost that could feed families for years, polished to such perfection that you can see your reflection as you walk. Champagne fountains tower at strategic intervals throughout the space, the golden liquid flowing endlessly, because running out would be unthinkable at an event like this. A full orchestra occupies one corner of the ballroom, their instruments gleaming under the lights as they play Vivaldi with the kind of precision that comes from decades of training at the world's finest conservatories. The music floats through the air, elegant and unobtrusive, the soundtrack to a world where wealth isn't just displayed, it's assumed. And the guests. Oh, the guests arriving tonight represent the peak of Chicago's power structure. Politicians who make decisions that affect millions of lives, CEOs who control companies worth billions, celebrities whose faces grace magazine covers, socialites whose names appear in society pages more often than actual news. They arrive in limousines and luxury cars, draped in designer everything, wearing jewelry that requires insurance policies and security details. This is the world Simone is about to enter. Alone. A sleek black town car pulls up to the red carpet entrance. The door opens, and Simone Laurent steps out into the warm evening air, into the flash of cameras, into a moment she's been preparing for, but can never truly be ready for. The emerald green gown is even more spectacular in person than it was hanging in her penthouse. Custom Valentino, created specifically for her body, for this night. The fabric is Italian silk that seems to change shades as she moves, shifting from deep forest green to brilliant emerald, depending on how the light hits it. Hand-beaded with thousands of tiny crystals and semi-precious stones, each one sewn on by artisans who spent weeks bringing this creation to life. The gown fits her like water, like it was poured onto her body and then solidified into fabric. It hugs every curve, the back cut low to reveal her smooth dark skin, the front elegant and sophisticated. The train flows behind her, 3 feet of beaded perfection that whispers against the marble as she walks. She looks like royalty. She looks like money. She looks like she belongs. And she carries herself with quiet confidence, her head high, her shoulders back, her walk measured and graceful. To anyone watching, she appears completely self-assured, a woman comfortable in her own skin and in spaces like this. But inside, her heart is racing. Inside, she's acutely aware of every eye that turns her direction. Inside, she's giving herself a pep talk with every step. You belong here. You earned your place. Alexander loves you. You are enough. She's excited, genuinely excited, to finally stand beside Alexander publicly, to stop hiding their relationship, to claim her place as his wife in front of everyone who matters in his world. But she's also deeply aware that she's entering a space that hasn't always welcomed people who look like her. She's been in rooms like this before, rooms where she was the only black face, rooms where she had to work twice as hard to prove she deserved to be there. She knows what's coming. She's prepared for it, or at least she thinks she is. Simone enters the grand ballroom, and immediately, heads turn. Some of the glances are admiring. A few women openly stare at the dress, their eyes widening in appreciation or perhaps envy at the sheer beauty of the gown. Some men look with interest, taking in her beauty, her elegance, the way she moves through the space like she owns it. But others look with something different: suspicion, confusion, dismissiveness. Their eyes narrow slightly, their smiles don't quite reach their eyes, their heads tilt as they whisper to whoever is standing next to them. You can almost hear the questions forming. Who is she? Why is she here? Does she belong? Simone feels every single look. She's developed a sixth sense for this over the years, an ability to read rooms and recognize when she's not welcome, when people are making assumptions, when her presence is being questioned. But she keeps walking, keeps her expression neutral and pleasant, keeps reminding herself why she's here. She's barely 10 steps into the ballroom when an older white couple blocks her path. The man is in his 70s, silver-haired, wearing a tuxedo that probably costs more than most people's monthly rent. The woman is his wife, dripping in diamonds, her face stretched tight from cosmetic procedures, her eyes cold and assessing as they land on Simone. The woman doesn't even smile, just looks at Simone like she's evaluating help. "Excuse me, we need more champagne at table 12. It's not a question, it's a command. The tone is one you'd use with service staff, dismissive and entitled and completely assured that compliance is expected. Simone's stomach drops, but her face remains neutral. She knows this game, she's played it before. "I'm actually a guest." The man interrupts her mid-sentence, his voice carrying that particular condescension that comes from a lifetime of never being told no. "Well, can you find someone? That's why you people are here, isn't it?" You people. 2 words that carry the weight of centuries of assumptions, prejudice, and casual racism dressed up as social observation. Simone's jaw tightens. For just a moment, her composure cracks, and something hot and angry flashes through her eyes. But she's had years of practice controlling her reactions in situations like this. Years of learning that responding with anger, no matter how justified, will only confirm their prejudices. She takes a breath, lets it out slowly, and responds with perfect politeness. "I'm sure you'll find the wait staff around the perimeter of the ballroom. Enjoy your evening." She walks away before they can say anything else, before her anger can override her self-control, before she says something she can't take back. Her heels click against the marble, each step measured and deliberate, refusing to look rushed or flustered even though she wants to scream. She finds a quieter corner near one of the champagne fountains and takes a deep breath, while closing her eyes for just a moment. This isn't her first time dealing with this. Won't be the last. She knew, walking in here tonight, that this would happen. She just didn't expect it to happen quite this fast. She reminds herself, Alexander will be here soon. 20 minutes, he texted. Just 20 more minutes, and she won't have to navigate this alone. But 20 minutes can feel like an eternity when you're the only person in the room who looks like you and everyone is wondering why you're there. Then, like a lifeline thrown to a drowning person, she hears a familiar voice. Girl, you look like money. When does Prince Charming get here? Simone's entire body relaxes as Maya appears beside her, wearing a stunning burgundy gown that complements her rich dark skin beautifully. Maya is her best friend, has been since their college days, when they were both working multiple jobs and studying until 3 a.m. and surviving on instant ramen and determination. Maya is also black, also successful. She's a corporate lawyer at one of Chicago's most prestigious firms, and she's been Simone's rock through everything. The late nights building her business, the anxiety of starting a relationship with Alexander, the decision to keep their marriage private, and now tonight, walking into this world publicly for the first time. They grab fresh glasses of champagne from a passing waiter and find a slightly quieter corner, away from the main crowd but still within view of the ballroom's center. Simone checks her phone, relief flooding through her when she sees Alexander's text. Running about 20 minutes late, stuck in a meeting with the Tokyo office, so sorry. We'll be there as soon as humanly possible. Love you. 20 minutes. She can do 20 minutes. Especially with Maya here. They discuss the crowd, the opulence, the orchestra. But they also note the stares, the way people keep glancing their direction and then looking away quickly when caught. They've both been navigating predominantly white spaces their entire professional lives. They know what those looks mean. Maya's eyes scan the room, taking in the power dynamics, the social hierarchies, the way people cluster in groups that reflect money and influence. Then her gaze lands on a particular cluster of women holding court near the center of the ballroom. Isn't that the woman from the articles? The one on the foundation board? Simone follows her gaze and sees Victoria Ashford Chen for the first time. Victoria is impossible to miss. She's positioned herself at the social center of the room, surrounded by 5 other women who hang on her every word like she's dispensing wisdom instead of gossip. Her blonde hair is styled in perfect waves. Her Dior gown probably cost $50,000, and she's wearing enough diamonds to fund a small country's economy. But more than her appearance, it's her energy that draws attention. She radiates confidence, entitlement, the absolute certainty that she belongs at the center of everything. She's clearly the queen bee of this particular hive. Others approach her deferentially, seeking her approval, laughing too hard at her jokes, positioning themselves for her attention. She holds court like royalty, and everyone seems to accept this as the natural order of things. And she keeps glancing toward the entrance. Not casually, but repeatedly, like she's waiting for someone specific to arrive. Her anticipation is almost palpable. Simone and Maya watch her for a moment, both recognizing the type. They've encountered women like Victoria before, women who've built their entire identity on social status, who view every other woman as competition, who need to be the most important person in every room. What Simone doesn't know yet is that she's about to become Victoria's worst nightmare. Across the ballroom, Victoria's eyes sweep the crowd with the practiced assessment of someone who's made it their life's work to monitor who's who and what's what in Chicago's social scene. She's holding a glass of champagne she hasn't actually drunk from. She never drinks much at these events, needs to stay sharp, stay in control, and nodding along to whatever Jessica Pemberton is saying about some charity auction. Then her gaze lands on Simone and Maya in their corner. Victoria's expression shifts subtly. Her eyes narrow slightly, her mouth tightens just a fraction. She doesn't recognize Simone, which in Victoria's world means only one thing. She doesn't matter. And if she doesn't matter, but she's here anyway, there must be some mistake. She leans toward Jessica, her voice carrying that particular tone of condescending concern. Why is the help wearing a gown like that? Jessica follows her gaze, uncertainty crossing her face. She's not quite as quick to judge as Victoria, or maybe she's just more aware of how assumptions can backfire. Maybe she's a guest? Victoria's laugh is dismissive, almost mocking. Don't be ridiculous. Look at her. Probably borrowed that dress to sneak in and social climb. You know how these people are. They think if they dress the part, they can infiltrate spaces they don't belong in. But even as she says it, even as her words drip with casual racism, disguised as social observation, something else is happening inside Victoria. Something uglier. Something more visceral. That dress is stunning. More stunning, if Victoria is being honest with herself, which she never is, than her own Dior gown. The emerald green catches the light in a way her champagne-colored dress doesn't. The beading is more intricate. The fit is more perfect. The woman wearing it carries herself with a natural grace that no amount of money can buy, and Victoria cannot allow that. Cannot allow anyone, especially someone she perceives as inferior, based purely on skin color and prejudice, to outshine her at what she considers her event, in her world, among her people. Her insecurity, deep and corrosive and usually hidden beneath layers of privilege and entitlement, suddenly activates like a tripwire. This woman, whoever she is a threat. Not because she's done anything threatening, but simply because she exists, because she's beautiful, because that dress is incredible, because people are looking at her with admiration instead of at Victoria. Victoria makes a decision. Quick, instinctive, cruel. She turns to her group of friends, her voice dropping to that conspiratorial tone that draws people in, that makes them feel like they're part of something. Watch this. I'll show her where she belongs. Her friends exchange glances. Some look uncomfortable. Jessica opens her mouth like she might object. But Victoria is already moving, already cutting through the crowd with purpose, already fixed on her target. She has no idea that the woman in the emerald gown is Alexander Rothschild's wife. No idea that she's about to commit social suicide in front of 300 witnesses. No idea that her prejudice, her cruelty, her need to put someone she views as lesser in their place is about to cost her absolutely everything she spent 2 decades building. All she knows is that she sees someone she thinks doesn't belong, and she's decided to do something about it. Simone stands with Maya, laughing at something her friend just said, completely unaware that across the ballroom, a woman she's never met has decided she's a problem that needs to be solved. Completely unaware that in just a few minutes, her beautiful evening, her nervous excitement, her hope of finally stepping into Alexander's world publicly and proudly, is about to be shattered. The orchestra plays on. The champagne flows, the chandeliers sparkle, and Victoria Ashford Chen walks toward Simone with purpose, with prejudice, with a cruelty that's about to explode into a moment that will define all of their lives. The collision is coming, and nothing will ever be the same. Sometimes the worst moments of our lives happen in slow motion. Time stretches. Every detail becomes sharp and clear. Every word cuts deeper than it should. And you know, even as it's happening, that you're living through something that will change you forever. For Simone Laurent, that moment is about to begin. Victoria crosses the ballroom floor with the confidence of someone who's never been told no, never been challenged, never faced consequences for her actions. She has 2 of her friends flanking her like soldiers backing up their general, and her expression carries that particular mix of disdain and determination that comes right before someone does something cruel. Simone is mid-laugh at something Maya just said when she notices them approaching. Her smile fades slightly. Some instinct, some warning system developed over years of navigating hostile spaces, tells her that whatever is about to happen isn't good. Victoria stops directly in front of Simone. Close enough to invade her personal space, but not quite close enough to be overtly aggressive. Her voice carries, loud enough that nearby guests can hear, which is exactly her intention. She wants an audience for this. Excuse me, but I don't believe we've met. I know everyone on the guest list. The implication is clear. If Victoria doesn't know you, you don't belong. It's a power move, an assertion of authority, and a challenge all wrapped into one sentence. Simone takes a breath, maintains her grace despite the alarm bells going off in her head, and responds with perfect politeness. I'm Simone Laurent. This is my first time attending. Victoria's eyes narrow, assessing, judging. She tilts her head slightly like she's examining something curious, but ultimately insignificant. Laurent? I don't recognize that name from any of the founding families. There it is. The first cut. The implication that only certain names, certain families, certain bloodlines have the right to be here. Simone feels it land, feels the sting of being reduced to a last name that doesn't carry the weight of generations of accumulated wealth. But she keeps her voice steady, keeps her chin up. I'm here as a guest of Alexander Rothschild. And oh, the way Victoria's face changes in that moment. Color floods her cheeks, her eyes widen just slightly, and something ugly flashes across her expression. Shock, jealousy, disbelief. Because Alexander is hers, in her mind at least. He's the prize she's been circling for years, the man she fantasizes about, the symbol of everything she wants and hasn't been able to claim. Alexander? That's interesting. She pauses, and you can almost see her mind working, see her trying to reconcile what Simone just said with her assumptions about who and what Simone is. And then, because Victoria's cruelty is matched only by her prejudice, she asks the question designed to humiliate. Are you here to work the event? Catering? Entertainment? The implication isn't just clear, it's a slap. She's suggesting that the only reason someone like Simone would be associated with Alexander is if she's hired help. Maybe catering staff. Maybe entertainment? Maybe something even less dignified that Victoria's tone is heavily implying. Nearby guests have started to notice the confrontation. A small crowd is forming, the way crowds always do when they sense drama. When they smell blood in the water, some look uncomfortable, others look curious. A few, shamefully, look entertained. Maya steps forward immediately, her lawyer instincts kicking in, her protective instincts overriding social protocol. She just told you she's a guest. But Victoria cuts her off with the kind of dismissive tone usually reserved for children or servants. I'm speaking to her, not you. Simone feels anger rising in her chest, hot and righteous, and demanding to be released. Her hands clench slightly at her sides. Her jaw tightens. But she's had years of learning to control these reactions, of understanding that showing anger when you're black in predominantly white spaces only confirms their worst assumptions about you. So she keeps her voice steady, keeps her words measured, even as fury burns through her veins. I'm not working, I'm attending. But Victoria isn't satisfied. Victoria can't be satisfied because in her worldview, there's no acceptable explanation for Simone's presence here. So she decides to escalate. She signals to a passing waiter, plucking a glass of champagne from his tray with the casual entitlement of someone who views service staff as furniture. She steps closer to Simone, invading her space, close enough that Simone can smell her expensive perfume and see the calculation in her eyes. That's a beautiful dress. Far too expensive for someone like you to own. Did you rent it? Someone like you. 3 words that carry the weight of every prejudice, every assumption, every racist thought Victoria has ever had, but usually has the social grace to hide. Except she's not hiding it now. She's weaponizing it. Simone has reached her limit. She's done with this conversation, done with this woman, done with being polite in the face of cruelty. I didn't rent anything. Now if you'll excuse me. She turns to walk away, to remove herself from this situation with her dignity intact, to find somewhere quiet to breathe and wait for Alexander to arrive and make this all make sense. But Victoria isn't done. Victoria will never be done because people like her can't stand to lose, can't stand to be dismissed, can't stand to let someone they view as lesser walk away with the upper hand. As Simone turns, Victoria stumbles forward. It's the kind of stumble that's just plausible enough to claim accident, but deliberate enough that everyone watching knows exactly what it is. The champagne splashes across the front of Simone's dress, golden liquid soaking into the emerald silk, spreading across the beaded bodice, dripping down onto the floor. The crowd gasps. That collective intake of breath that comes when something shocking happens, when a line is crossed, when everyone knows they're witnessing something they shouldn't be seeing. Victoria's voice carries across the sudden silence, dripping with false concern. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. These floors are so slippery. But her smile tells the truth. It's cruel, satisfied, triumphant. She's not sorry at all. This is exactly what she wanted. Simone looks down at her dress, at the champagne soaking through the silk that took artisans weeks to create, at the liquid dripping from the beading, at the stain spreading across fabric that can never be truly cleaned. Her composure, that careful control she's maintained through this entire encounter, Cracks. Her hands shake slightly as Maya immediately hands her napkins, as her best friend whispers urgently in her ear. We can leave. Let's just go. This isn't worth it. But leaving feels like surrender. Leaving feels like admitting Victoria was right, that she doesn't belong, that she should have known better than to try to enter this world. Simone tries to dab at the champagne, her hands trembling with suppressed anger and humiliation and hurt. She's blinking rapidly, fighting back tears because crying here, crying now, would be the ultimate admission of defeat. And Victoria, seeing those cracks in Simone's composure, seeing the tears threatening to fall, decides to twist the knife. She addresses the crowd that's gathered, her voice carrying that tone of mock sympathy that's more insulting than outright cruelty. I do apologize. These things happen when people aren't used to formal events. When people aren't used to formal events. As if Simone is some unsophisticated outsider who doesn't understand how to navigate spaces like this. As if her presence here is itself evidence of her inferiority. Something in Simone snaps. Her head jerks up, her eyes locking onto Victoria's, and for the first time tonight, her anger shows. Really shows. Burns in her eyes like fire. What did you just say? Victoria, emboldened by the audience, by the crowd watching, by the power she feels in this moment, doubles down. I'm just saying, perhaps next time you'll know better than to pretend to be something you're not. Pretend to be something you're not. The accusation hangs in the air, ugly and explicit. She's calling Simone a fraud, a pretender, an imposter who borrowed a dress and crashed an event to social climb. Simone steps forward, her voice low but carrying an edge that makes several people in the crowd step back. You don't know anything about me. Victoria lifts her chin, her cruelty now fully unleashed, her mask completely dropped. I know exactly what you are, and you don't belong here. For a moment they stand there facing each other, the tension so thick you could cut it with a knife. Simone's chest is heaving with suppressed rage. Victoria's smile is vicious. The crowd watches, riveted and horrified in equal measure. And then Simone makes a decision. She's going to leave. She's going to walk out of here with whatever dignity she has left, find Alexander, tell him what happened, and never step foot in this world again. Because no amount of money, no social position, no relationship is worth this level of degradation. She turns to leave, her movements sharp and decisive, her back straight despite everything. But Victoria isn't done. Victoria will never be done. She reaches out and grabs the train of Simone's dress, not gently, not carefully, with force, with intention. Did you hear me? You need to leave. The fabric is Italian silk, delicate and beautiful, and worth $47,000. The beading is hand-sewn, each crystal attached with thread that's strong enough to hold, but not strong enough to withstand violent force. It was never designed to be grabbed, to be pulled, to be weaponized. If you're loving this story so far, support me for hitting that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Also tell me in the comment below, from where are you watching this story right now, because what happens next will leave you absolutely speechless. The sound of tearing fabric fills the ballroom. It's not a small tear, not a seam coming loose, not a fixable rip. The entire back panel of the dress tears away from the bodice. Silk rips like paper. Thread snaps. Beading scatters across the marble floor, tiny crystals bouncing and rolling, the sound like rain on glass. Simone stumbles forward from the force, catches herself on a nearby table, grips the edge to steady herself. The crowd erupts in shocked murmurs, gasps, exclamations. Some people cover their mouths, others reach for their phones. Someone says, "Oh my God," loud enough to be heard over the orchestra, an act which is still playing because they haven't realized what's happening yet. Simone turns slowly, so slowly, and the look on her face will haunt everyone who sees it. Her dress is destroyed. The back is completely torn away, hanging in tatters. Champagne stains the front. Beading is scattered across the floor. And her face shows everything she's been holding back all night. Humiliation, rage, hurt, tears streaming down her cheeks that she's not even trying to hide anymore, because what's the point? Victoria stands there with a piece of emerald green fabric still clutched in her hand, looking momentarily shocked at what she's done. For just a second, you can see it register. She's gone too far. This isn't gossip or social games anymore. This is destruction. This is assault, witnessed by 300 people. But then, because Victoria is who she is, because she spent so long building her identity on cruelty disguised as social superiority, she laughs. Actually, laughs. Oops. Guess it wasn't quality after all. The sound of that laugh echoes through the suddenly silent ballroom. The orchestra has stopped playing now, the musicians sensing something has gone terribly wrong. 300 guests stand frozen, watching, some horrified, some uncomfortable, some already reaching for their phones to text about the scandal they just witnessed. Simone stands there, dress ruined, dignity shattered, tears on her face, and she looks like every woman who's ever been humiliated in public, who's ever been judged by her appearance, who's ever been told she doesn't belong. Maya wraps an arm around her friend, fury radiating from every inch of her body, already calculating lawsuits and consequences and justice. And across the ballroom, the main doors open. Alexander Rothschild walks in, 20 minutes late from his Tokyo meeting, expecting to find his wife waiting for him, expecting to finally introduce her to the world, expecting a beautiful evening. Instead, he sees a crowd gathered, sees his wife standing in the center, her dress destroyed, tears on her face, sees Victoria Ashford Chen holding a piece of torn fabric, sees everything he needs to see to understand exactly what happened. His expression transforms from confusion to understanding to something cold and lethal, something that makes everyone who sees it take an involuntary step back. The ballroom doors open, and when Alexander Rothschild enters a room, people notice. It's not just his height, though at 6'3" he towers over most of the crowd. It's not just his wealth, though everyone in this room knows exactly who he is and what he's worth. It's something else. Presence. Authority. The kind of power that doesn't need to announce itself, because everyone already knows it's there. He's late, 20 minutes late, and you can see the stress of the Tokyo meeting still etched in the tight set of his shoulders. The slight tension in his jaw. His ice-blue eyes scan the ballroom immediately, searching for one person, the only person who matters to him in this crowd of 300. He sees the gathered crowd first. The unusual clustering of bodies, the way people are standing frozen, watching something. The silence where there should be conversation and laughter. Something is wrong. Alexander pushes through the crowd, and people part for him instinctively, stepping aside without even thinking about it, the way subjects make way for a king. And then he sees her. Simone. Standing in the center of the crowd like an accused prisoner in a courtroom. Her dress torn, the beautiful emerald gown he watched her get so excited about, now hanging in tatters. Champagne stains across the front, beating scattered on the floor around her feet, like evidence of violence. Tears streaming down her face. Maya's arm wrapped protectively around her shoulders. His expression transforms in the space of a heartbeat. Confusion melts into understanding as his eyes take in the scene, the torn dress, the scattered beading, Victoria standing there with fabric still in her hand. Understanding crystallizes into something cold and lethal, something that makes his eyes go from ice blue to arctic, something that makes everyone who sees his face take an involuntary step backward. His voice cuts through the murmurs like a knife through silk. Simone, it's just her name. One word, but it carries everything: concern, fury, a question, a promise of protection. The crowd parts further, creating a clear path between them. Simone sees him, and her face does something that breaks your heart. Relief floods her features, so intense it's almost painful to witness. But it's mixed with embarrassment, humiliation, the shame of being seen like this, vulnerable and broken in front of everyone who matters in his world. Alexander crosses to her in 3 long strides, his movements swift and purposeful. Without a word, without hesitation, he removes his tuxedo jacket and wraps it around her shoulders, covering the torn dress, shielding her from the stares, giving her armor when she has none left. He cups her face in his hands, his thumbs gently wiping away tears, his voice dropping to something softer, something meant only for her, even though everyone can hear. What happened? Who did this? Simone's voice breaks when she tries to speak. Alexander, I just want to go. But Maya, standing beside her friend like a guardian angel with fury in her eyes, points across the space. Her. Victoria Ashford Chen. Alexander's head turns slowly, so slowly, toward where Victoria stands. The movement is deliberate, controlled, like a predator locating prey. His eyes lock onto Victoria, and the temperature in the room seems to drop 10 degrees. Victoria's confidence, that smug satisfaction that was on her face just moments ago, wavers. You can see uncertainty creep into her expression, see her brain trying to catch up, trying to understand why Alexander Rothschild is looking at her like she's something he wants to destroy. She didn't expect this, didn't expect him to react this way to what she assumed was just the help, just some woman who snuck into an event where she didn't belong. In Victoria's mind, Alexander should be grateful that she handled an uncomfortable situation, should appreciate her maintaining the social order, should understand that she was protecting his event from infiltrators. She forces a laugh, but it sounds hollow, nervous. Alexander, darling, I didn't know you'd arrived. There was a little misunderstanding with the catering staff. Catering staff. She's still committed to the lie, still trying to maintain the fiction that Simone has hired help, that this is all just a simple mistake. Alexander's voice, when he speaks, is dangerously quiet. The kind of quiet that's more terrifying than shouting, the kind that makes smart people shut up and listen. Catering staff? He doesn't move from Simone's side, but his attention is entirely on Victoria now, his gaze pinning her in place like a specimen under glass. Then he turns to address the crowd, his voice carrying to every corner of the silent ballroom. Let me make something very clear. This is Simone Laurent Rothschild, my wife. The silence that follows is absolute. 300 people collectively hold their breath. My wife. Two words that detonate like a bomb in the middle of Chicago's social elite. Victoria's face drains of all color. Her mouth opens, closes, opens again. No sound comes out. She looks like she's been physically struck. Whispers explode through the crowd like wildfire. Phones come out, heads turn toward each other in frantic, hushed conversation. The shock ripples outward in waves. Alexander Rothschild got married? When? To her? To a black woman nobody knows? Why didn't anyone know? How did they keep it secret? Is this real? Alexander continues, his voice cutting through the chaos. We were married 6 months ago. Tonight was supposed to be our first public appearance together as husband and wife. Instead, my wife was assaulted and humiliated. He looks down at Simone's torn dress, at the champagne stains, at the beatings scattered across the marble. His jaw clenches, a muscle ticking in his cheek, and you can see him fighting to maintain control. Victoria finally finds her voice, stammering, desperate. Wife? But no one knew. Alexander, I thought she was. Alexander's eyes snap back to her, and his voice drops even lower. You thought she was what, Victoria? Say it. Victoria can't. She can't say out loud what everyone in the room now understands she was thinking. Can't voice the racist assumption that led her to destroy a woman's dress and humiliate her in front of hundreds of people. Alexander says it for her. You assumed, based on the color of her skin, that she couldn't possibly belong here, that she couldn't possibly be my equal, my partner. You saw a beautiful black woman in an expensive gown and decided she must be the help, and then you assaulted her. The words hang in the air. An indictment that can't be taken back, can't be explained away, can't be spun into something more palatable. Jonathan Chen, Victoria's husband, pushes through the crowd. He's a tall man, successful in his own right, and the look on his face is pure horror. He understands, instantly and completely, what his wife has done and what it's going to cost them. Victoria, what have you done? He turns to Alexander, his voice pleading. Alexander, I had no idea. Please let me apologize. This doesn't reflect. But Alexander cuts him off with a look. Your wife just committed assault in front of 300 witnesses. She deliberately destroyed a $47,000 custom gown. Gasps ripple through the crowd. $47,000. The number makes it real, makes it concrete, makes it impossible to dismiss as just a small accident. But more than that, Alexander continues, she revealed exactly who she is, and who we've been trusting with our foundation's mission. That lands like another bomb. Victoria sits on the foundation board. Victoria has influence over how millions of dollars are distributed, over which causes get supported, over who gets help and who gets dismissed. And she just showed everyone exactly what her values are. Victoria, desperate now, panicking, tries to salvage something. It was an accident. Alexander, please, you know me. We've known each other for years. Alexander's voice is like ice. I thought I did. Clearly, I was wrong. He turns to his head of security, a large man in a dark suit who's been standing at the perimeter of the ballroom. Escort Mrs. Chen out. She's no longer welcome at any Rothschild event or property. Make sure everyone on my security team knows her face. The security guard approaches Victoria, professional and implacable. Victoria's panic escalates into something close to hysteria. You can't do this, Jonathan, do something. But Jonathan won't even look at her. He understands that his business relationship with Alexander, his position on the board, everything he's built through that connection is over. He's doing the math in his head, calculating how much his wife's prejudice, cruelty just cost their family, and the number is staggering. Alexander addresses the crowd one final time, his voice carrying authority and finality. Let this be understood. Anyone who shares Mrs. Chen's views is not welcome in my life, my business, or my family's foundation. We will be restructuring the board. We will be examining our partnerships, and we will not tolerate this kind of behavior from anyone, regardless of their position or connections. Security takes Victoria by the arm, gently but firmly. She's crying now, mascara running down her face, her carefully constructed image crumbling along with her social position. She tries to pull away, tries to protest, but the security guard is professional and insistent. As she's escorted toward the exit, her sobs echo through the silent ballroom. People watch her go, some with pity, some with shock, some with a kind of grim satisfaction that justice is being served. The doors close behind her, and Victoria Ashford Chen's reign as Chicago's society queen ends with the sound of those doors clicking shut. The crowd is silent, processing what they just witnessed. Some look ashamed, others look thoughtful. A few look angry, though whether at Victoria or at Alexander, it's hard to say. Alexander turns back to Simone, and his expression softens completely. The ice melts from his eyes. The ruthless CEO disappears, replaced by a husband who failed to protect his wife from something ugly. I'm so sorry, I should have been here. Simone, wiping tears from her face, manages a small smile. You're here now. He kisses her forehead, gentle and tender. Let's go home. We don't need to stay for this. But Maya, ever practical, ever prepared, has a different idea. Actually, I have a better idea. She signals to someone near the entrance. A young assistant appears, carrying a large garment bag. Maya takes it and turns to Simone with a smile that's equal parts mischief and love. I know my best friend. I brought a backup dress, always prepared. Simone stares at her, laughing through tears, the sound a release of tension and absurdity in gratitude. You brought a backup dress? Maya shrugs, grinning. Girl, I've known you for 20 years. I know how these events can go. White tie galas and champagne? Someone was bound to spill something. Plus, this one is even more stunning than the first. Alexander looks at Maya with genuine appreciation and amusement. I can see why Simone loves you. Simone looks between her husband and her best friend, then at the crowd still watching, still waiting to see what happens next. You can see something shift in her expression. The hurt is still there, the humiliation is still raw, but underneath it, something stronger is rising. Steel, determination, refusal to be broken. You know what? I'm not leaving. I'm not letting her win. Alexander studies her face. Are you sure? We can go. You don't have to prove anything to these people. Simone's voice gets stronger, more certain. I'm sure. This was supposed to be our night, our first public appearance. I'm not letting what she did take that away from us. Let's make this night what it was supposed to be. 10 minutes later, the ballroom doors open again. Simone Laurette Rothschild enters on her husband's arm, and this time there's no confusion about who she is or why she's here. The backup dress Maya brought is a stunning midnight blue gown that somehow manages to be even more breathtaking than the emerald one. It's simpler in design, but more dramatic in impact. A deep sapphire silk that makes Simone's skin glow, cut to perfection, elegant and powerful, and absolutely unforgettable. She enters with her head high, her shoulders back, walking like she owns the place. Because in a very real sense, as Alexander Rothschild's wife, she kind of does. The crowd parts for them, watching, unsure how to react, uncertain if they should applaud or stay silent or pretend the last hour didn't happen. Alexander leads Simone through the ballroom to the stage at the front, where speeches are meant to be given throughout the evening. He takes the microphone, and the room falls completely silent. Tonight was meant to honor my mother's legacy. Catherine Rothschild founded this charity 60 years ago because she believed in justice, equality, and lifting others up. She believed that privilege came with responsibility and that wealth meant nothing if you didn't use it to make the world better. He pauses, looking at Simone beside him. My wife embodies everything my mother valued. Simone grew up on the south side of Chicago, the daughter of a nurse and a postal worker. She worked 3 jobs through college. She built an internationally recognized art curation business over 12 years through sheer brilliance, determination, and talent. He addresses the crowd directly. She didn't need my money or my name. She has her own. She's successful in her own right. But I'm honored, deeply honored, that she chose to share her life with me. He hands the microphone to Simone. For a moment, she just stands there, holding it, looking out at 300 faces watching her. Some sympathetic, some ashamed, some still judging, all waiting. When she speaks, her voice is clear and strong, carrying to every corner of the ballroom. What happened tonight is not unique to me. It happens every day, in smaller and larger ways, to people who don't fit someone else's narrow view of who belongs. People make assumptions based on skin color, on accents, on zip codes, on last names. They decide who deserves respect and who doesn't based on criteria that have nothing to do with character or accomplishment or worth. The crowd listens, and you can see some people shifting uncomfortably, recognizing themselves in her words. But here's what I want you to remember. Your assumptions about people reveal more about you than they ever will about them. The way you treat someone you think is less than you shows exactly who you are when you think no one important is watching. She pauses, letting that sink in. I hope tonight serves as a reminder that dignity, grace, and worth are not determined by wealth, status, or skin color. They're inherent. They belong to everyone, and no one has the right to strip them away from another person. She hands the microphone back to Alexander, and he wraps his arm around her waist, pulling her close. The crowd erupts in applause. Not everyone. Some people leave, uncomfortable or angry or unwilling to accept what just happened. But most people clap, and some of them are clapping not just for Simone's words, but for her courage, for her refusal to be broken, for standing there after what happened and claiming her space anyway. The orchestra starts playing again. The evening continues, but everything has changed. 3 weeks later, Jonathan Chen filed for divorce. The court documents cited irreconcilable differences, but everyone knew the truth. Victoria had cost him his business relationships, his position on the board, his connection to the Rothschild empire. He cut his losses and moved on. Victoria lost her position on every board she held. The Rothschild Foundation removed her immediately. 3 other organizations followed suit within days. Her name, once synonymous with Chicago society, became synonymous with scandal. She moved to Europe 6 months later, effectively exiled from the social circles she'd fought for 2 decades to join. Rumor has it she's in Monaco now, trying to reinvent herself, but the internet never forgets, and neither does Chicago's elite. The Rothschild Foundation underwent a complete restructuring. Alexander and Simone overhauled the board, adding diverse voices from different backgrounds, different industries, different perspectives. They created a scholarship program specifically for first-generation college students in the arts. Simone's idea, funded with Alexander's money, managed by both of them together. Maya became the foundation's lead legal counsel, a position she used to root out discriminatory practices, not just in the foundation, but in all affiliated organizations. She became known as the woman you didn't want to cross if you had skeletons in your closet. 6 months after that night, Simone and Alexander attended another gala. This time, Simone walked in knowing exactly who she was and that she belonged there. Her business had expanded internationally, with new clients in London, Paris, and Tokyo. Alexander had stepped back from some of his business ventures to spend more time supporting her work, attending gallery openings, meeting artists, learning about a world he'd never really understood before meeting her. They danced that night, surrounded by genuine friends, by people who valued them for who they were, rather than what they represented. Late that night, back in their penthouse overlooking the Chicago skyline, Simone and Alexander stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows, watching the city lights sparkle below them. Simone, still in her gown, leaned against her husband's shoulder. "Do you think she learned anything?" Alexander was quiet for a moment, considering. "I don't know. But we did. We learned who our real friends are. We learned that going public was the right choice, even when it was hard. We learned that Maya's backup dress instincts are impeccable." Simone laughed, the sound warm and genuine. "That woman really does think of everything." They stood there in comfortable silence, two people who'd found each other across different worlds and built something real. If you're as hooked on this story as I am on telling it, make sure you hit that subscribe button right now, because stories like this matter, and I have plenty more where this came from. What would you do if you were in Simone's position? Would you have walked away, or would you have stood your ground? Drop your answer in the comments below, because I want to hear your thoughts. In a world that often judges by appearances, by last names, by zip codes and skin color and arbitrary measures of worth, the most powerful thing you can do is know your value. Know it so deeply that no one else's opinion can shake it. Know it so completely that when someone tries to diminish you, you can stand back up, put on a new dress, and walk back into the room with your head high. Simone Laurent Rothschild learned that night that she was strong enough to face the worst that prejudice could throw at her and survive it. She learned that love, real love, stands beside you when things get ugly and wraps you in a tuxedo jacket when your dress gets torn. And Victoria Ashford Chen learned that cruelty has consequences, that treating people as less than human eventually catches up with you, that the help you dismiss today might turn out to be someone powerful tomorrow, and that in the end, character matters more than connections. The dress can be torn, the champagne can be spilled, the humiliation can be acute and public and painful. But your worth? That's something no one can take from you, unless you let them. Simone and Alexander still live in Chicago, they still attend charity galas, and Simone still walks into rooms where she's sometimes the only black woman, where people still make assumptions, where prejudice still exists. But now she walks in as Alexander Rothschild's wife, as a successful businesswoman in her own right, as someone who faced humiliation and came back stronger, as a woman who knows exactly who she is and refuses to be anything less. And that's the most powerful thing of all. White woman tore the dress of black woman thinking she was just Waitress. Her billionaire husband saw